Picture in your mind one of the great, magnificent castles of older days, the kind you see in the movies, maybe in a history book. Picture this one with all the usual equipment, the tall towers at the corners, the high, thick walls, the openings, the water barrier all around it, moat, I think it's called. Picture that in your mind, and then picture the residents of the castle. You know, people lived there. They wasn't just a visit every now and then. People actually lived inside of them. Picture people living inside of it. But there's something wrong with their lives in that they were trembling all the time over the fact that there were enemies outside the walls in the surrounding woods who were threatening, always threatening to attack and invade the castle. Now, if you lived in that castle yourself, you would be just as ill at ease as they were. But you could do something that they didn't do. What they didn't do was connect their trembling and their endless mistakes. They didn't connect it with their lack of knowledge about the structure, the castle that they were living in. And you don't either. You don't make a connection, but you're going to start tonight. You're going to notice those times when you think it's futile to go on the way you're going, that there's always an enemy after you. You're going to connect deliberately all the time, connect your unhappy state with the fact that you don't understand your inner castle. Now, the fact was, when the king built that castle we're talking about, the king knew all about the tactics of the enemies. He knew what they would do. He knew their schemes. So, now listen, this is marvelous information. So the king who built that castle a long time ago, he built it with perfect safety for its residents. No enemy, none of his people could ever be threatened by the enemy out there, because the castle would stand any attack. But look, if they had known that fact, that there is safety within this walled structure, if they had known that, then there could be 10 million gangsters and villains out there, and not one little trembling would go through them, because they would know that where they were is total and lasting safety. You are getting the drift of this, are you not? Which is, you don't know the kind of an inner fortress castle that has been offered for you to live in forever. You don't know that. Now you're aware right now of a mistake you've made, how you have overlooked something. You never connected your anxiety over money, over marriage, over whatever. You never connected your dreary condition with the residence you have. You believe and act as if Now listen to this. You're acting as if darkness is stronger than light, aren't you? Well, of course you are. You don't, now if you listen to me, you don't know the almighty and divine Heavenly Father. You don't know that He is omnipotent, omniscient. You don't know experimentally that you can be safe if you do the required things, which is to study the castle and see how you tremble, because it's not what you think it is. Truth is absolute protection. If you took that one statement and worked with that for 6 months, the truth is absolute protection, and worked on that basis, you'd begin to see how you were imagining enemies were inside. There are no enemies inside except where you have allowed them to come inside your life. That's not their natural habitat. They don't belong there. You're always inventing someone out there trying to thwart you. Come on, will you agree with that? There's always some little sly imp out there who's out to get you, which you want to think about because it supports your delusory ideas about yourself. Have you ever had this experience? You're waiting around home for all day long for the telephone to ring, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for the phone to ring. Finally, you get a mouthful of toothpaste and the phone rings. Right? What happened when that happened? There must be some invisible power out there just... But boy, I sure must be pretty important. All those bandits out in the woods there, all they do is make me the center of their attention. I must be pretty important. I know you're following that point. That you create enemies in order to get a feeling of what? Excitement, of being overwhelmed. And the cure for that is to step outside of yourself. The cure is to not live your present life anymore. You don't have to. It's absolutely unnecessary, but you didn't know that. Now you know it. How many times just today were you overcome by thrills, hurtful thrills, overcome by running a scene through your mind? You do that because there's something wrong with the human mind which wants to preserve a feeling of being threatened, of being hurt, because then he can say, if I am under threat, then I must exist according to my imaginary concepts of myself. But you don't. Those are just thoughts. And one day, I'll give you a sentence, and you're going to have to work up to it now, in which you say to yourself with freedom and understanding, which is, it doesn't make any difference what I think. But you think it does make a difference. I've got to manipulate that situation to get what I want. I've got to protect myself against the horrors outside the castle. You're always building up fanciful foes out there so that you can refer the experience back to yourself and say, see, I exist. Look, a river runs down the countryside in its riverbed, and it comes to a big waterfall, high waterfall, Old Faithful at Yosemite. And the water crashes down 100 yards or whatever it is, and hits the rocks below, does the water get hurt? It picks itself up, sparkles a little bit, throws a little spray around, and goes merrily on its way through the park. Now, there is water and there is earth. Earth can't harm water. No way. Truth, what you can have, cannot be harmed by this world. This world is the earth. You know why? Because earth is earth and water is water. They are different. Underline that in your note. Water, that's obvious. How many know that water's different from earth? Such good naturalists we have here. So if they're different, then the earth can't harm the water. You must develop yourself inwardly to where you don't just quote that or write it on a slip of paper, but you live it all the time. You're alert to the fact that you lived in that castle long enough, shaking and worrying, because you did not investigate the whole structure itself and find out that you are free when you are really living. Now we are switching to the inner castle. You are free when you're living there, but you forget about it. And you take sufferings, pains, embarrassments, from the smallest degree to the most horrible pain. You take all of those as familiar, habitual, and unfortunately necessary. Now, which would you rather do? Sing a song about being free or be free? Everyone is singing the song. And they don't know what freedom means at all. All they have is the word. You know, you're going to have to give yourself a jolt. You're going to have to be so blunt and sincere with yourself to where every moment of your day you can see the difference between what you say about yourself, I'm ambitiously happy, or whatever. The difference between what you say and the way you feel. Don't be afraid to see how bad it is. The greater the revelation of your own lostness, the more you will be compelled to study the castle and see how strong it is. It makes no difference what you think about the castle. You don't have to believe anything about it. You don't have to build it. It's already built. Look at those marvelous thick walls. Look at how the sentries can stand up in the towers and see every move of the enemy trying to get in. There is no way it can get in anymore, but it got into you today, didn't you? Didn't it? You weren't exploring the nature of your mind, of yourself, because you're afraid, for one thing, that there is no solution. You're afraid that maybe the castle can be overtaken, assaulted, and broken down, and you get hurt. Look, please. I'm not talking about the castle you built and live in. I'm talking about the castle created by reality, not by agitated fiction, not created by desire. Well, this reason why you're anxious about everything is because you have built your own castle, hoping that it will withstand the enemy, but it never withstands the enemy. They always get in, don't they? So, look at the revelation you just had. The revelation that you're not living in the castle made in heaven, but your own. And I'm telling you, you have to look around and see that. And even though you are afraid, and you're terrified, even though you're afraid to walk away from it, you have to do it. Just look, just walk away from yourself. You don't like your life. Doesn't it make logic to walk away from an unwanted existence? But you want the guarantee, of course. You want to say, give me the certainty that I will have something better. That's the mistake. You will never find something better. What you want will be merely another projection of your own desires, the new girlfriend, your new house. You build your own so-called castle and suffer in it, not seeing that you're the author of your own horror stories. Now, something is going to have to happen to you, and I'll explain it to you. What's going to have to happen is that you come to an intense crisis inside yourself where you don't want to stay and you don't want to go. But I'll tell you something. When you become conscious of this double impulse inside you, you're making progress. And for a long time, you'll shake back and forth between them. Well, I've had a lot of fun running for public office. I've had a lot of fun traveling around the world. I better stick to the sensations and thrills with which I'm familiar, because I hear these talks about something else, and they don't give me any guarantee that I can find it. I'm not going to give up the pennies I have. You promised me gold. I'm not going to give up the few copper pennies I have until you show me and give me the gold first. No. No man or woman, no matter what their name is or where they live, no person ever inherits the kingdom of heaven. That's the mistake everyone makes. I want to be saved. And people crying out there know very well inside they are not saved. If you're saved, you're supposed to be saved from something. If you're saved from your bad temper, then you're not saved. If you still have a bad temper, no matter how much you go around quoting how salvation has come to you, you're going to have to remain in the conflict between your present way of living, being scared inside the castle, and the other way, which you don't know exists. It's true, you don't know it exists. You've got words, you've got descriptions, a higher life, salvation. You've got words. And almost every human being on earth, almost all of them, settle for the pretense. Settle for the phraseology. And oh, you'll understand what I'm going to say now. Oh, do they have to cling close to each other. People who say, I've found the ultimate. They have to find 10,000 other people who say, I've found it too. And this is why they get shaken when someone goes away from the fake life that they've been living. No matter what happens, you must tell yourself, and should tell yourself, no matter what, I don't care how bad it is, no matter how you're caught in the vice, you have to say to yourself, I'm a seeker. Now that's good, aren't you? That's good, that's good. I am a seeker. Now, if you will meet every disaster, difficulty with that, I am a seeker, that is the beginning of you understanding the stability, the strength of the cosmic castle. But if you go away from that simple statement, I am a spiritual seeker, then you'll have to say, I'm not a seeker, I have discovered. I'm no longer a seeker, I've found the promised land. All is well, I'm happy. All right. It's very easy, isn't it, to see hypocrisy in other people? A little more difficult to see it in ourselves. Because the pretenses are so sly, and they want to play it safe by flattering someone. We want to believe in ourselves. And what you're doing is building a thought self which you know is always invaded by enemies with their swords and their arrows and their brutality. I came here tonight to tell you something. That you don't have to be the victim of your own delusions anymore. Now, what more do you want than that? Well, you're going to get it. Now, I'll tell you a story that will help you understand it. Once there was a man who was in this state we're talking about, like the people in the castle. He was nervous and jittery and lonely, and no matter where he went at night, to the bars or to the so-called happy places, no matter where he went or what he did, he had this desolation inside of him. Didn't know what to do. So he lived out in the countryside in a little house out there. And one day, the county health officer came around. And the health officer says, I hear that you're ill. Maybe mentally, sir? I mean, he was tactful about that. You have to be careful how you identify people. But I'll tell you what, sir. I am the county health officer, and I've got the solution for you. Now, here's what you can do. There is a well filled with water about 10 miles from your house. Pure, healthy water with magical qualities in it. Water being a symbol of truth, right? You drink this water every day. You go out every day and take a cupful. You will begin to change because the water will be doing the work for you, not your mind. You'll find that your loneliness and wanting someone else to be around because you're afraid to be alone by yourself, you will find that this water will do for you what you can't do for yourself. But you have to make the effort. It's up to you to walk out of here every day and go over to the well and take a drink of water. But before I go, I want to do something else for you. The health official said. He pulled out a little bottle and he said, take a drink of this small sample of what's in that well. Drink it. So the man drank it. Oh, wow, yeah, that's all right, pretty good. Oh, Then he made his first mistake as a health officer galloped off. His first mistake was to say, how simple it is, how easy. All I have to do is walk out to the well and get the water, and I'll continue to feel as good as I do right now. This is a stage of boastfulness, of living in imaginary victory, of thinking you have it made, of thinking that you don't have work to do. Well, he did what every human being does, thinks that all he has to do is walk out there and he will be saved from all his griefs. Oh, was he in for a surprise and a shock. The first day he decided to walk out to the well, he no sooner got about 50 yards away from his house in the direction of the well, and an enormous angry wind came up and blew him aside, filled him with anger, flashing, blew him. All he could think to do is to go home mad. Go home mad. How many have ever gone home mad? How many go out mad? How many mad all the time? I want to get all of you now. Oh, he said, what's this? I was told by that county health officer, all I have to do is walk out, get the water, and all will be cheery from now on. See, he already created an enemy, didn't he? Someone betrayed me. You see, in his infantile thinking, he couldn't think that maybe I have new responsibilities that I know nothing about. Maybe I have to wake up a little bit, and I have to face the adversaries outside my house. See, he couldn't think that. So while he had the taste of truth, taste of water, and he knew where the well was, he stayed mad for a long time. This isn't what I thought it would be, and what I think is king. My mind is a king. So, well, he got over getting mad simply because he's ready to be discouraged next. Big basket of negative emotion. So he went out the next day, marched toward the well. And the next wind came along, furious gale. First it was angry wind that made him angry. Then it was a discouraging wind that made him discouraged. He said, I'm a sincere seeker. I know what I want now. I've had to taste what's right. Nothing works out according to the way I think it should be. And he never, ever became conscious of himself saying that foolish, dreadful thing. Do you know people, maybe the one in the mirror, who says, why don't things turn out the way I want them, the way I demand? Why are there so many enemies to my desires? You know very well that's the way the whole human race lives. Went out again, third wind came along. The wind of weakness. He felt weak. At first he was encouraged and strong, but this is a weak wind that blew him back to his house again. Oh, he said to himself, I really thought that when that health officer came, that he was a sincere man. I thought that he could help me, and I wanted to believe he could help me. But he must be wrong. See, people say truth must be wrong. Because I've been thwarted. See, he didn't have the elementary intelligence to realize, as you must realize, that the winds of adversity or in you. What's the point of blaming anything or anyone? There's no point in it at all. Well, our hero of this story, he got worse instead of better. He began to slump down more inside himself. He even got to the point, and this is a horrible condition for a human being to be in, and there are millions like it, who, when he's seated at home on a dark and dreary night, and he thinks of his favorite play place to go, the drinking room, the party, whatever, at the same time, he said to himself, I must go out and have some fun and get over this. At the same time, he knew the futility of going there. See, my one chance is to continue to go and be a playboy. But being a playboy is no fun. All right. Now, bring yourself into this particular point along the journey. That is good if you use it right, and you know it's good. You have to lose confidence in the structures you have built up that you're going to hide in. You have to lose you. You have to lose your blueprints for making it. People won't throw out their blueprints. You've got to throw them out. That's not any good. Not going to do you any good whatever trying to take what you're hearing here tonight. Take them and try to intellectually make them work. No. You have to abandon the intellectual level. You have to see the futility of you going any place and doing anything. Your friends won't give that up. They're dedicated to self-delusion and self-destruction. You're not going to do that anymore. You're going to be conscious of yourself thinking, there's nothing I can do without being afraid of what you said. There is nothing you can do. Your thought self can't do it. Now, but make this connection now. If there's nothing you can do to get over your jealousy, if there's nothing that you can do, why don't you just give yourself up? And I know what you thought. Well, I'm the only me I've got. Don't take that away. No! You are not the only me you've got. There's something else that you can't think about. There is something else that's above intellectualism. But you insist on crowning your mind as the king of your castle. Isn't it about time you saw how you have consented to self-betrayal? You have consented to all the enemies that have crept in. You have even sat down at dinner with them, made friends with them, because they seem to give you a sense of identity. They seem to make you someone, and a lost soul doesn't care one bit what kind of false identity he has. Anyone will do, because they serve his sickness of wanting his egotism to be something to be worshipped. Talk with people in business or socially. Just look. And if you're just a little bit of perception, you can see by what they say, what they talk about, that they're worshiping something that doesn't exist at all in reality, but was made up of their own delusory desires. Tomorrow, they say, is going to be different. Tomorrow I'm going to make it because I have a new plan. And then the next day he has to have another new plan.
And a third new plan. Thinking cannot rescue you. The absence of thought is authentic cosmic intelligence. So our man got worse all along, but fortunately for him, something happened to him because he had a little bit of agreement within him to proceed, no matter how tough it got. You understand that, don't you? You cannot quit. You can't walk away from this class and say you're going to find it on your own. How stupid can you get? You'll find out how stupid you can get when you get older and wish that you had listened to the higher voice that you are hearing right now in this room. There is only up or down. There's no level. Don't try to kid yourself into thinking there's level ground. There isn't. You're either climbing up or you're going down. Well, our man looked around and was appalled at what he saw inside himself. And a little flash of remembrance came to him. A little bit of recollection. And you know what it was? It was the remembrance of what that sample bit of water, pure water, tasted like and what it did for him. Now, lots of human beings, billions, the whole earth, individuals have been given a taste of the water in the well. Most of them forget it, don't want it. They like their old life too well. But a few people, having tasted it, can never forget it. Isn't that marvelous? As a matter of fact, we have to get a little deeper. As a matter of fact, all of you in this room here, all of you hearing the tape somewhere else, you know in your heart that what you've been hearing is this pure water. This is the well that will satisfy all those who thirst after righteousness. You know that, all of you, right now, every one of you. I'd like to point out each one of you, but I say everybody, that covers it. You know it. Not enough. You have to make a higher decision once you have had that taste of truth. You have to decide what you want to do with the memory, the remembrance of the taste as the man did. You have to make up your mind whether the lures and the phoniness of this world is preferable, or whether you want to remember the taste of it so that you're willing to go through anything, 1,000 adverse winds, in order to get to the well and drink from that water all the time. Most people do not. I want you to be an exceptional kind of a man or a woman. I want you to know how many times throughout your life you have chosen the playthings and the evils of this world. You have chosen that, but you can now understand that it was stupid. What is more stupid than throwing away your life? You've got a chance to find real life in this life. So you have had a taste tonight, all of you. There's no way any of you can ever say, I don't know what I should be pursuing. Maybe I should go here or go there. You defy all those enemies surrounding your life castle. You defy them, and you say something like this: I know how battered I've been by those howling winds trying to get to the water. I know how discouraged and depressed I get. I understand that. However, there is no denying whatever the taste of that little bit of water that the county health official gave me. There's no way I can doubt it. And I am not going to deny it. Those who fail to find truth and immortality, those who fail to find it are those who say, I have tasted the water, but I don't want it. I want my fun. I want to feel myself with all the outrageous and uprising emotions and passions that I can have. I'd rather feel life. Besides, I don't like the idea of being battered and knocked down and disappointed every time I try to get to that water of truth. I'm talking about your friends that you'll go home, see some of them tonight. About the people you work with. Look around your office. Don't you know that they don't know? Don't you know that they don't want to come here because they have sold their souls in a futile attempt to gain the gold and glory of this world? All right. If you have made the mistake of putting gold and glory before the taste, tonight is the night to make a new declaration. Remember the taste of truth that you've heard tonight. It is the only friend you have. More than that, the only thing that loves you, that really loves you, is not a human being, but the pure water of life that you can go out with hard work and keep going, that you can find anytime you want to find, that will give you a whole different viewpoint of this world that you have loved with human love, of course, and which has betrayed you. Please, go out of here convincing yourself that you have been betrayed by all your friends, all the activities, all the noise and the music, and all the deception that we're going to make this a better world. Never mind those foolish, ridiculous people who are trying to make this a better world. They never have succeeded. They never will. Your responsibility is toward yourself. But people who don't want to take that responsibility would rather join the club, rather join a political or social group. Remember that you are a seeker. You keep that pure. That will help you remember, you know, during the course of that talk, I heard something, and it really did taste different than anything I've ever heard before. I didn't understand it, and it scared me somewhat, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted it or not. But there's no question but that it was different. When you find and remember that difference, you'll be able to easily compare it with all the things that this world has to offer you. Choose truth. Fight your way forward to the well. Good night.
When misfortune strikes, there is always another explanation besides the one you give yourself. Already, isn't that the best news you've heard today? When a problem attacks you, there exists another answer besides the quick, impulsive, ancient answer that you always give yourself. For example, incredibly, you tell yourself that the answer is to get agitated over it, to get uncomfortable. Feeling something about the problem is not solving the problem. It's a million miles away. So already, you can think in a new way with what's going to happen to you for the rest of this day. You can think, I need not resort to the commonplace, usual me in order to be free of this challenge, this difficulty, this embarrassment, anything at all. I need not do that. Now, I am telling you that that is a fact. It is something you can prove for yourself. But to do that, you have to fall out of love, of being in love with your quick, hasty responses. You have to no longer get involved with yourself. That's what happens now when you have a difficulty, and that's why the difficulties repeat themselves, because when you get involved with yourself in trying to find the answer, there is no answer. Everything stays on the same low level. There's no change in your nature. There's no peace, there's no quietness, there's no insight at all. How many of you ever had your heart broken and oh, that romance? How many of you had your heart broken anywhere else? Oh, but that romantic one was pretty bad, wasn't it? Oh, how can I live without her? Oh, without him. Oh. Academy Awards will be passed out for your performance. Now, I said there is a different kind of a response that you can make. The reason you went into pain, heartache, grief, crying when you lost that person is because you went into the relationship believing that that other person, the lover, could confirm you as being someone, something. They could confirm you as being someone who's lovable, someone whose companionship is highly desirable. You wanted that man or that woman to do something that it's impossible for them to do, but you didn't know that. You're learning now. You're knowing it now. That other human being, regardless of how good-looking or powerful he or she seems to be, that person has no authority to give you an identity, no power to make you feel good. They can't make you feel secure and happy. You just want to believe that. You want to think that there is a self-made source of consolation. You want to believe that there is comfort in this world, in the society. And you want to believe that because you don't want to accept something higher than your belief, and you're now, from now on, you're going to push aside all your impulsive
graspings for a self-made comfort or solution. No longer are you going to close your eyes and fall inside yourself. If I use the phrase, he's all wrapped up in himself, he's sunk down inside himself. You understand that, don't you? You can see someone like I'm illustrating now, with head down, eyes closed, arms in front, all self-absorbed. When self-absorbed, you're self-absorbed. That's all there is. And so you look within that self-absorption to find an answer to the problem you made in the first place by not knowing that there is an answer above your present state inside, above the way you think, feel, act, talk, live. You have insisted upon your own isolation, and look how much you pay for it. If you're isolated from reality, from truth, if you are isolated, you will feel that isolation, and you will cry inwardly all week long. And no matter how much you hope that the next lover, the next romance, the next activity, no matter how much you hope and want to believe, you are never going to find relief. You have never, not one of you hearing me has ever found relief at all. Not authentic relief that is real, that endures, that gives your mind a quietness. You have never, not one of you, and you never will, unless you put the facts you're hearing this morning first in your life. And you had better start right now, during the course of this talk. You'd better investigate yourself right now while you're listening to this talk and find out what idol within you have erected and worshiped. You know what it is? Your own thoughts, your own attitudes and ways of thinking. You worship your own thoughts. Oh, what a difficulty you're going to have unless you change that. So I'm going to tell you this morning, and already have, tell you how to understand your mind as it works. And understand that your mind is not, your ordinary mind is not the solution to your problems, which are always called spiritual problems. That is a lack of spirituality. Your mind, your beliefs never have changed a thing. All you've done is change lovers, and even loved the heartache afterward. I challenge you right now, the next time you're disappointed anywhere over anything, a human relationship or in your career, I challenge you to no longer feel bad about anything. You don't have to. The reason you feel bad is because you want to feel bad. The reason you want to feel bad because you think it affirms you, which it doesn't. And walking in the circle, running into the same obstacles, repeating the same anguishes over and over, that is no fun. Now, I'll tell you something else. This morning, I'm going to dare you from now on to be good. Now, come on, by good I mean good. You know what it means to be bad, therefore you have some idea of what it means to be good. What does bad mean? Well, of course, there's the kind of badness where you hurt someone else, where you deceive them, where you take something away from them. That's bad. Being bad to other people because you were first bad to yourself, of course. Then there's another kind of badness, and I want you to remember this especially. There's a badness which is simply ignorance. It's bad to be ignorant. You don't know how to drive your car properly. That's ignorance. That's bad, and you're going to get into trouble driving the highway. So please remember that a lack of information about how you work, a lack of knowledge about that is a bad state for you to be in. All right, now back to the original point. I dare you, I request of you to, from now on, every day, you're going to be a good man. You're going to be a good person all day long. You value that snapping remark, don't you? Yes. How many make snapping remarks? In your head, if not with your mouth, right? You make those snapping remarks because you call them good, but they're really bad because they're self-destructive, because they keep you where you now are. So, acknowledgement of information about badness must become conscious to you. You must see that any show and feeling of irritation over losing that business deal, whatever, any irritation is being bad. Now, hang on to the next comment for all you're worth. No one can be happy and be bad at the same time. When you're bad, thinking hostile thoughts towards someone else, when you're bad, you're not happy. You're agitated, you're fiery, you're burning inside. But because of an incredible quirk in human nature, that burning over assaulting someone emotionally, getting something on them, knocking them down, by an incredible mental madness that is called happiness. It is called happiness, and in reality, it is misery. I'm telling you how to stop being miserable. The choice is yours. Too bad if you choose against yourself. Too bad for you, because your face will continue to increasingly reflect the dark path you have chosen to walk. Your inner nature will reflect it. You'll be a sad and sick man or woman, not knowing what you could have had by listening to the truth you're hearing right now. Sure, you can walk away from reality. Well, of course you can. You've been doing it every year of your life. How old are you? Say your age to yourself. That's how long you have said, I am sufficient unto myself. I don't need anyone. Man, woman, how can you possibly be so bad off inside yourself to make such a delirious statement as that? And you're not even conscious that you're saying it, but it's there. Outwardly, you pretend you want help. Who do you think you're kidding? Who do you think you're fooling when you say I really am self-sufficient? I don't need to come to classes. I know what it's all about. You haven't the slightest idea of what your life is all about. And that's why you are in fearful danger. Yes, you're in danger if you are the egotist who knows everything about your own life And all you need is the next applause from someone, the next favorable circumstance to come along. You take that as being happiness when it is simply delusion. When you walk out of this door after this talk, you will have made a decision for yourself to go uphill or downhill. And if you go too far downhill, you won't even know you're going downhill anymore because you'll call it uphill, and you will be a goner. Yeah, that's the way it is. That's fact. That's what it is. They're all goners out there. This is an extremely unique place. You people come for the first time don't know what you've walked into. You've walked into a place where under no conditions will a lie ever be told you, because you have nothing whatever to give to New Life Foundation. Nothing. You do have something you can give to God. You do have something that you can allow to come to you, which will lift the awful weight and the burden and the anguish and the scariness that you are feeling right now. It's 16 minutes after 9 by the clock. And at this precise moment, because you have put your mind ahead of supreme spiritual intelligence, you have put your thinking first, you are afraid right now. Now, your admission of that right now would be a marvelous move. Can you do that? Or are you so hard in your sick egotism that you know more than anybody, including the man giving the talk? That's been your attitude all your life. And that's why you fall down, and why you are going to continue to fall down, because you know the right way in your own mind, and it's the wrong way, what you call the right way. Once upon a time, something happened in a region in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. How many have been to Colorado? Big Rocky Mountains, right? Well, what happened was that there was a rebel Kruger mountain lion who was marauding around the area, scaring picnickers and visitors and attacking livestock. He was a rebel cougar, a creeping cougar. So all the town was worried about what to do about it. The police didn't know how to stop him. The hunters in the area, they didn't know how to track down the cougar. The cougar represents, of course, something negative, hostile in human nature, as you'll see as the talk goes on. Even the FBI didn't know what to do about the creeping cougar. This FBI stands for Feline Investigation Bureau. He continued to scare people, even when it was springtime in the Rockies. He scared people. He was an egotistical cougar. He thought the song was written all about him. Well, nobody knew what to do. Look, listen to this. Go to any hall, a political meeting, a religious meeting, a social gathering where there's 10,000 people, a football game, 100,000 people. Do you know? Let's go big time here. Football, Rose Bowl, football stadium loaded with 100,000 people. Look at, picture it in your mind. You can see it. That's a lot of people, 100,000, right? Not one person in that whole stadium knows what to do with themselves. They don't know what to do about the creeping cougar inside. Listen, this is something for you to get more astonished at. Out of those chosen 100,000 men and women, not one of them is in command of their inner nature. Not one of them really wants to be good. This is how bad it is. Not one of them really wants to be good. They want to appear good and smile a lot and offer solutions to society's problems. And they all go home sick and tired, wondering if there's a way out of the trap, away from the creeping cougar. They wonder if there is a way, but they don't take the necessary action to find the way, which is findable. You are finding it this morning. Do you want it? Oh, I think I'll put that question to you, all of you, right now. In your heart, do you really want to be good? In your heart, are you willing to go through what is necessary for you to go through in order to be free of the creeping cougar inside of you? You know, a cougar is, he's threatening, he's dangerous. You've never got rid of him, have you? With all your distractions about how next week your business is going to improve your profits, with all the phony consolation you give yourself by religious quotations or inspirational facts that you've picked up along the road, they don't do you any good, do they? Your attempts to feel good only make you feel worse because you've tried something and hoped in it. Maybe this will work. It will never work. You're hearing what will work. And the only thing in this universe that will work, you're hearing it this morning. Take it or leave it. Your destiny depends on you taking it. If you leave it, you won't know that you've left it because you'll be so far gone that you will go around thinking that you actually understand something. For heaven's sake, for your sake, would you please look in the mirror this afternoon? Look in the mirror when all your surface cheerfulness and forced smiles are set aside for the moment. Your joviality and friendliness. Take a good, this is a definite instruction. You look at yourself in the mirror after this class and please try for the first time maybe to tell the truth about what you see, because I guarantee you that your life history of tragedy and of arrogance and of egotism and of evil is written in your face, in your expression. See, you can't see it so well when you're talking to other people because you don't want to see it. You come face to face with your face in the mirror. It's all there. Be honest. If you could just look, if you could just see that you're sad. See, when you're wide awake, when the spiritual sunshine is guiding you, you can be sober-faced without being sad. You don't have to be laughing. There doesn't have to be expressions on your face all the time. I'm asking you to look into the mirror and tell yourself honestly about what you see. And if you do it, a very fortunate thing will happen to you. You will be jolted. The jolts that you've avoided so widely all your life. You don't want to be jolted. I want to be happy. So I'm going to find my happiness in fun, in activities, whatever you choose, your daydreams, by believing that one day it's going to change. That's called your false happiness. But when you look in the mirror, and you're to do this, and just don't be afraid of what you see. In the first place, I have to get this out of the way or you'll make a certain mistake. You are not your body. You're not your face. That isn't your real nature at all. That's this shell, temporary structure that you're walking around inside of. Get that out of the way. It doesn't make any difference whether you're young, old, good-looking, ungood-looking. All those things don't make any difference. I'm asking you to look and be honest about the spiritual reflection that you see. Now, why is this essential? It's not just important. It's absolutely necessary for you to come to this state. Later you can do it without the mirror, but you have to start with the physical. It helps. You look into that mirror and you tell yourself what kind of a person is looking back at you, and you'll be able to admit, yeah, yes, there is certainly sadness in those eyes. There's certainly a whole shadow of defeat on my face. See, you're all alone. You can be honest all alone. When you're with other people, you have to fake it. How are you? Good morning. But when you're looking in the mirror, you're face to face with what you have avoided for all these years. Say your age again to yourself. That's how long you've been avoiding it. You look in there and look. Don't be sad over seeing you are sad. Otherwise, you have added something to the sadness and you've wrecked the experiment already. Just know there is sadness there. You see, and this is very familiar, and I want you to be aware of hardened faces. People who have dedicated themselves to self-worship, who want nothing to do with virtue, with God, with reality, with immortality. They want nothing to do with immortality. I want you to detect in yourself traces of hardness. Hardened face indicates hardened heart, where you know better. Don't you dare go out of this room critical and sarcastic. Don't you dare. For your soul's sake, sir, madam, don't you dare take one more step towards self-destruction. But when you look in the mirror, as you've been instructed to do, you look at that and you be very, very honest at what you observe. You are not to react to it in any way at all, because that will be you reacting to the old nature, to your present state, and you'll become frightened and you'll say, well, that's not me. I look a little sad now, but look at me when I'm out at the party or when I'm with other people, how charming I am, how pleasant I am. See, you've wrecked the experiment already. Look in the mirror until you see what you have always been. A shy, scared, terrified human being. That's what you are right now. See it in the mirror and tell the truth about it. Don't you dare try to do anything about it, because if you do it, and you will distort the image in the mirror. You will tell lies about what you see. You see, we always want to supply our own solution to our own grief, and you cannot find it. How can it, listen to this simple logic. How can a grieved man or woman get rid of his grief? You are the whole business. You are grief for you. How can you do anything about it? This is terribly profound, marvelously profound. So that when you gaze at yourself, studying it intently, wanting to know what you are really like, and then you will get the answer. You'll be able to see with sincerity. You'll be able to see, oh, how lost I've always been, and what a big bluff I have put on hiding it. Be real honest about it. Do this often. And as much as you don't want to do it anyway. Do it often. This is a way of seeing inside yourself. It's about the 10th time I've said this, if you're honest, if you tell lies, if you try to evade it, avoid the impact, the shock. There will be a shock, because you'll see what you really are as opposed to what you pass yourself off as being in your imagination to yourself and to everyone else. Practice the mirror exercise. Well, the creeping cougar has been creeping all the time we've been talking about it. So Nobody knew what to do. 100,000 people, nobody knows what to do. Your friends don't know what to do with themselves. They just find spurious activities and lose themselves in the activities, and they call it life. So nobody could solve the problem of the creeping cougar. But one man, a newspaper photographer, made a plan for himself. He said, I'm going to creep behind the creeping cougar and take a picture of him. And I'll get it printed in the paper, and I'll be rich and famous for having actually photographed this elusive phantom called the creeping, cunning cougar. So he got all his equipment ready, backpacks and so on. Because the cougar, you see, inner cougars hide back in the bushes so that nobody knows where they are, and you don't know where your creeping cougars are because they're hiding way out in the woods, and they jump out. How many were attacked by a creeping cougar this morning? What were you worried about? What were you angry about? What did you fear? So he put on all his equipment and went out in the deep woods, searched around for a few days. Nothing happened. He had his binoculars up all the time, saw nothing. And after about a week, he began to get an uneasy feeling. He's wondering what's going on. I haven't seen the cougar, and I don't think I'm afraid of it, but something is making me uncomfortable, nervous. I wonder what it is. Well, he kept on searching around, looking for him. And one day, he was walking through a stretch of woods with rocks all over the ground. And all of a sudden, he stopped in shock. This is something psychological now. Try to follow the inner meaning of what I'm talking about, because there is an inner meaning to everything you've heard this morning. He stopped, froze in place in shock, just as you have a feeling of apprehension when you think you have maybe wandered into a dangerous relationship, a dangerous place even physically. He stopped in shock. He took a deep breath. He was afraid to turn around for fear of what he might see. See the psychology of that? I told you, you're afraid to look in the mirror. You're afraid to face what is there for fear it might be too much for you. Well, as he turned around, there it was. There was the creeping, cunning, criminal cougar on a rock looking down at him. And you can picture the scene, can't you? The photographer and the cougar exchanging stares at each other with the cougar's gleaming eyes and crouching, ready to jump. Now, I'll pause there. We'll freeze the picture. We'll come back to it. I know this is a critical moment, but we'll come back to it because I want to tell you something else. How many of you, as a child, ever had a staring contest with someone else? How many have had one as an adult? I am going to give you something extra this morning. I'm going to tell you how to win a staring contest if you're ever so infantile as to engage in one again. You know, two eyes meet, you and the boss, you and the spouse, you and the stranger, whatever. I'll tell you how to win. First of all, you win by not engaging in it in the first place. But I'll give you a clue. Your power over the other starer is to know that his weakness is that he needs to win the contest, and you don't. You've won already. What is more ridiculous, more infantile? Two 60-year-old men standing there on stairs. What you have to do is avoid it in the first place. But if you're weak and the inner cougar is creeping up on you, just know that his weakness is that he needs to win the contest and you don't. You can put your eyes away. Without a feeling of defeat, he has lost because he needed to win. And you have grown up. You've matured. Maybe in those few seconds, you've realized the cougar in you is at work, wanting to outstare, to prove to him how strong you are. Nobody's going to outstare me. I'm the world's greatest starer, or whatever. Oh, come on now. All of you are to admit to me that that would be enormous relief to you not have to be caught, trapped in a staring contest. You can walk away, and you walk away in freedom. You've learned what it means to be good. See, it's bad to need to win over anyone. It's bad to do that. It's bad for you. It's bad for him. Don't be afraid to be good. All right, we froze the camera for a moment, right? Now, click, it's on again. He's turned around, and there he is staring with the cougars up on the rock, crouching, ready to jump on him. Now, in a situation like that, the mind tends to work swiftly, instantaneous impressions. And here's what went through the photographer's mind. In shock, all this that I'm saying to you came in a split second to him. He thought to himself, here I was going to come out into the woods and shoot the cougar with my camera. I was going to win over him. I was going to hunt him down. But something terrible has happened. The hunter has become the hunted. The hunter has become the hunted. That has happened to you how many times? You need a computer to add them up, right? You see the lesson? Well, before we get to the lesson, let's say that he caught himself in time. He didn't want to stare at the cougar and be stared at. So he recovered, got his camera out, snapped the picture, and his mature right reaction scared the cougar away. It finally put it in an old cougar's home. He was only 15 years old. And he finally got out from the old people's home and roamed around him. Yes, the photographer, because there was a certain rightness in what he was doing, he did get the picture printed, and it was appreciated, and it put an end to the creeping cougar problem. The lesson. You constantly find yourself in that condition where you were going to conquer someone, you were going to get something, you went out hunting. What's your major hunting projects today? What do you want from the world that you think is going to make you happy? In the first place, it's not going to give it to you because it can't give it to you, and it never has given it to you, but you're hunting. You want to score a victory. All right. Within yourself, you really know better. You know in your heart, though you've hidden it from yourself, that you can't win. Because the you of your present nature is a loser by nature. You can't win. You, sir, you will never win. You, man, you will always lose. Now I'll tell you what the spiritual definition of winning is. You want to hunt for something. You want to be victorious over it. But you don't know that in this world you are hunting, wanting dangerous cougars, and they are smarter than you presently are. They can, look, evil is so insidiously clever. It has conquered the entire world. Everyone, practically everyone, is under the crude, evil authority of evil itself. So you can't win. You've learned something. You've learned that you can't hunt for victories in this world without getting trapped by the cougar out there. You don't know. You don't absolutely know how overwhelmingly victorious neurosis, psychopathy, and satanic evil is in this world. And that will come as you do your proper work, the mirror exercise, for example. It will come to you, and each time you'll be increasingly shocked. You first have to say, I didn't know I was that bad. And if you face the fact that you are that bad, then you will have equal intelligent understanding of the world out there. And that's what causes the cougar to run away, to not be a threat to you anymore. Because you understand first the badness in yourself, and then you can conquer it outwardly. You are to observe from now on situations where your desire, your egotistical ambition got you into a condition where you suddenly turn and realize that the hunter is now the hunted. If you can do that before the cougar leaps, if you can know you're in danger before it climaxes with a leap of the cougar, you can save yourself, and you had better. Otherwise, you're going to go out of here wanting something from this world, from that man, from that woman. Sooner or later, and it will be sooner, the cougar is going to be too much for you, and you are going to get attacked just as you were attacked this morning on the way here by not being wide awake, by not understanding what you are now beginning to understand. You're to be so alert all the time that it is illustrated by the photographer. His purpose was to take a photo. So he did take a picture of the cougar, and that was his worldly victory. But now translate that into spiritual terms. Your spiritual victory will be that no sneaking, creeping cougar of badness, of hostility, of pain, of grief can never creep up on you and take you over again, because you are smarter than evil. You now have a higher spiritual, cosmic intelligence that always has been and always will be ahead of the creeping cougars. The only reason you feel bad is because you have not dedicated your life to finding the source of your problem, which is unconscious forces inside yourself. But you're going to do that from now on. You're now going to work to stay ahead of all pains of problems. You're going to be quietly victorious because the state that comes down from up there has come down and become your state. Go to work. Good morning.